Think about stories that have just echoed through millennia. Tales so powerful they've really shaped how we think about courage, destiny, even what it means to come home.
Mm-hmm.
We're plunging into the bedrock of Western literature today, Homer's Iliad and Odyssey.
That's right. And this isn't just, a literary appreciation session. We've sifted through analyses comparing these two monumental works,
Okay.
trying to pull out the key insights that still resonate, really.
Yeah.
Our goal is to understand why these ancient poems continue to captivate and what fundamental truths they reveal about the human condition.
Exactly. Picture the ancient world, maybe the 8th century BCE, a bard named Homer, possibly reciting these epic poems completely from memory.
Incredible to think about.
Yeah. But the stories themselves might tap into events from centuries earlier, maybe the 12th century BCE, the Trojan War, perhaps. These weren't just entertainment. They were like the foundation of Greek education and culture.
Absolutely central.
And even centuries later, during the Renaissance, Homer was this towering figure, wasn't he? Symbolizing the peak of poetic achievement. That iconic image of him, claimed by all those different cities, it really shows his lasting impact.
It really does. And our mission in this deep dive is to unpack that lasting impact for you. We want to go beyond simple summaries and really explore the core themes, the ingenious narrative techniques, and ultimately why these poems still speak to us across the ages.
Great. So where should we begin?
Well, how about we start with the structure, the way they're built?
Okay, let's unpack the architecture of these epics. They were originally oral poems, weren't they? How did that affect their structure?
That oral tradition was absolutely fundamental. Both poems are composed in dactylic hexameter.
Okay, that specific rhythm.
Yeah, the distinctive rhythmic pattern, 6 feet per line. It essentially acted as a mnemonic backbone, crucial for recitation and recall. Think of it almost like the rhythmic pulse of a spoken song.
Makes sense for memory.
And within that rhythm, we find these formulaic epithets, those recurring descriptive phrases like rosy-fingered dawn or swift-footed Achilles.
Right, I know those.
They weren't just decorative. They were like building blocks that fit seamlessly into the meter. They offered the bards flexibility in their improvisation.
Ah, so they could swap them in and out.
Sort of, yeah. And what's fascinating is that this linguistic toolkit wasn't unique to Homer. It connects these epics to a much broader shared heritage of Indo-European oral epic poetry.
So it's like a shared musicality of epic storytelling across cultures.
Exactly.
And then there's this technique of starting in medias, throwing us right into the heart of the action. It's like the ancient equivalent of a cold open in a TV show, right?
Precisely. A perfect analogy.
Oh.
Both epics jolt you straight into the drama. The Iliad explodes with Achilles' bitter quarrel with Agamemnon. We're already in the 10th year of the war, not seeing the start.
Yeah, you have to figure out what happened before.
Right. And the Odyssey doesn't begin with Odysseus leaving Troy. It finds him years later, stuck on Calypso's island, just longing for home. The backstory, the earlier events, those are woven in later through flashbacks and retellings.
Which creates immediate tension.
Absolutely. It instantly captivates the audience. It's a remarkably effective way to grab and hold your attention from the get-go.
It certainly avoids a lengthy setup. And both epics employ other shared structural things, like those epic similes, those really detailed comparisons, comparing warriors to lions or storms. They're so vivid.
Exactly. These extended comparisons elevate the immediate action, giving you this sense of grandeur and emotional weight. They allow the listener or reader to visualize the scene with much greater intensity. Then we have the catalogs, the extensive list, like that famous roll call of ships that sailed to Troy, or the seemingly endless parade of suitors in Odysseus' palace.
Those can feel a bit long sometimes, honestly.
They can to a modern reader, yeah. But they served a purpose back then. They created a sense of completeness, of historical scope, the sheer scale of the events.
Okay, caught it. But despite these shared features, the two epics have such distinct feels, don't they, in terms of their pace and focus. The Iliad is this incredibly concentrated, almost claustrophobic look at just 51 days of this huge war.
Precisely. It's an intense, focused examination of martial conflict, personal honor on the battlefield, the immediate consequences of rage. Think of it as a pressure cooker of human emotion under extreme stress.
Whereas the Odyssey,
that unfolds over years. It's a sprawling, episodic journey filled with diverse encounters, adventures in far-flung lands. Completely different rhythm.
And you can really see how those structural differences amplify the central themes of each poem, can't you? All that compressed time and intense fighting in the Iliad really drives home those ideas of mortality, the pursuit of glory in the face of death.
Absolutely. It hammers it home, and the Odyssey's winding, almost meandering route perfectly mirrors its exploration of adventure, the reliance on cunning and wit for survival, and that profound human yearning for Nostos.
Nostos, that's homecoming, right?
Yes, that powerful, almost gravitational pull of home. It's as if the very structure of the poem embodies the long and difficult journey back.
Okay, so let's navigate those powerful ideas then, the themes that pulse through these epics. We're talking about heroism, honor, fate, mortality. I mean, the fundamental questions of existence, really.
Indeed. These epics delve into the very core of what it means to be human. Let's start with heroism and honor. It's striking how both epics are centered on heroes, yet they present such different ideals of what actually makes a hero.
The Iliad feels so rooted in battlefield prowess, doesn't it? In achieving this lasting glory, this kleos, it's about earning immortal fame through your deeds in war. And that's tied up with Timmy, your honor, your standing.
Exactly. In the Iliad, these warriors are driven by this intense desire to be remembered for their valor. Achilles is the ultimate embodiment of this. He makes a conscious choice for kleos, for that poetic immortality that will ensure his name lives on in song, even though it means sacrificing a long life.
He literally chooses fame over life.
He does. His very identity, you could argue, is constructed through this pursuit of a permanent record of his heroic actions. And you see how devastating the loss of Tyrrhene is. Agamemnon taking Briseis, that huge insult to Achilles' honor. That's the spark that ignites the entire plot.
The whole rage, the monies.
Yes, the very first word of the Iliad. It's as much about this wounded pride as it is about the war itself. It's a fascinating look into a culture where honor was just so deeply intertwined with identity and action.
But then you have Odysseus. He's definitely a hero from the Trojan War, a skilled warrior, sure, but his main driving force isn't just battlefield glory. It's that relentless desire to get home.
That's a critical distinction. While Kleos isn't irrelevant to Odysseus, he does want to be remembered. Of course, his overriding goal is Nostos, homecoming.
Okay.
And what's particularly insightful is that for Odysseus, these two concepts are intertwined. His difficult journey home, the very act of overcoming all those obstacles and reclaiming his household and kingdom, that becomes his unique form of glory. The Odyssey itself is sometimes called a song of homecoming.
So heroism gets broader.
Exactly. The definition expands beyond just martial valor to include cunning, resilience, and that deep commitment to family and place. It makes you wonder about our own definitions of success today. Is it all about public recognition, or does it also include, more personal triumphs?
That's a really good point. It's like Achilles seeks legendary status through very public action, whereas Odysseus finds it in the deeply personal act of returning to his life. Okay, let's consider fate and mortality. You can't read these epics without feeling the weight of destiny and the ever-present shadow of death.
Absolutely. The gods are constantly intervening, aren't they?
All the time.
It reflects this ancient Greek belief that even the most powerful people are ultimately subject to a larger divine plan. Prophecies hang over the narrative, like Achilles, knowing he'll die young if he stays at Troy, yet still choosing to fight.
And Hector, too, right? He seems to know Troy is doomed.
He has a sense of it, yes. He goes into battle with this foreboding about Troy's potential fall. The Greeks had a very stark, realistic understanding of war and its inevitable consequence, death. And this confrontation with mortality, this burning question of our limited time, it's central to the experiences of both Achilles and Odysseus. They're acutely aware of their own finite existence, unlike the immortal gods.
And the Iliad really doesn't shy away from depicting the grim realities of battlefield death. It's often quite graphic.
It is. That unflinching portrayal underscores both the horror and, within that specific cultural context, the honor associated with dying heroically in combat. Achilles' ultimate acceptance of his fate, Hector's courageous final stand against impossible odds, these moments embody a powerful confrontation with mortality.
And in the Odyssey, death seems different there.
It is. Odysseus encounters death in more symbolic ways, maybe metaphorical ways. Those encounters with strange beings like the Lotus Eaters, his actual trip down into the underworld.
Yeah.
And he relies heavily on divine help, especially from Athena, to navigate these dangers and ultimately achieve his Nostos, his destined return.
So it's this constant interplay between what seems fated by the gods and the choices the characters make. Fate feels like a framework, but there's still room for human action inside it.
Precisely. The concept of Moira, that sort of inexorable, often unseen force of destiny, is definitely present. But the epics also show how individual excellence, our authority, and even excessive pride, hubris, can influence one's legacy and how one faces that fate.
So they're not just puppets.
Not entirely.
Hmm.
The Iliad often carries this sense of a looming, often tragic destiny. The Odyssey, on the other hand, portrays more of a skillful navigation of fate through cleverness and resilience. It makes you wonder how much we today believe in, predetermined paths versus our own ability to shape our lives.
Hmm. And then we come to identity and homecoming. How do these heroes define themselves, and what does it mean for them to find their way back?
Well, in both epics, a hero's identity is deeply woven together with their deeds, their reputation, their kleos, and ultimately their name. Achilles' choice for Kleos is a deliberate act of forging his identity through his actions, ensuring his name will be sung for generations.
And Odysseus. It's fascinating how often he has to assert his identity, isn't it? Especially in those dangerous encounters, like with Polyphemus. Even giving the false name No One, Audis, is a clever way of protecting his real identity while still dealing with the situation.
Exactly, and that long journey homeward, that Gnostos, it's not just about returning to a physical place. It's a profound quest to reclaim his full identity, to be Odysseus, the rightful king of Ithaca, Penelope's husband, Telemachus' father.
All those recognition scenes?
Yes,
Yeah.
those powerful moments when Penelope finally chests him with the bed and knows it's truly him, when Telemachus embraces his long-lost father, even the loyal dog Argos, recognizing his master just before dying.
Oh, Argo.
Those moments are so emotionally powerful because they signify the reaffirmation of his true identity, unbroken despite all the years of absence and disguise.
And it's not just the main heroes, is it? Penelope's identity is so tied to her unwavering loyalty. And Telemachus' journey into manhood is all about finding his father, figuring out who he is in relation to Odysseus. Even Hector in the Iliad, his identity is deeply rooted in his role as Troy's defender, his connection to his family.
Precisely. These epics demonstrate how identity is built not only through individual achievements and the resulting kleos, but also through our fundamental connections to family, community, our physical home. Telemachus' own early journey in the Odyssey, his search for news of his father, his quest for Odysseus' kleos and the hope of his Gnostos, that really underpins the whole epic. Odysseus' successful homecoming is his ultimate triumph, the full realization of who he is.
Let's focus in on some of these iconic figures then. Achilles in the Iliad. He's this almost mythical warrior, practically invincible in battle, yet also so deeply human in his anger and his grief.
Absolutely. Swift-footed Achilles is the quintessential heroic figure of the Iliad, a demigod whose very being seems intertwined with his unmatched skill in war and his equally potent rage, that consuming meanness.
Right.
His withdrawal from the battlefield early on, sparked by that insult to his honor, is a pivotal moment. It forces him, and us, the audience, to confront the complexities of his character and his values. He literally weighs the choice: short life with glory or long life without it.
And he chooses glory.
He does. It encapsulates that classic warrior-hero ideal.
And that withdrawal, it reveals not just pride, but a deep sense of being wronged, doesn't it? Even with his near-divine abilities, he's acutely aware of his own mortality and the potential cost of his choices.
Precisely. And his later wrath, ignited by Patroclus' death, is almost terrifying. Like a force of nature. It pushes him back into battle with this incredible intensity. Yet even amidst that fury, we see moments of profound humanity, his deep grief for Patroclus, and that eventual, really striking interaction with King Priam.
Yeah, that scene is amazing.
He's not just a killing machine. He becomes a complex figure grappling with loss, the brutality of war. He perfectly illustrates that tension between the desire for immortal fame and the undeniable cost of being mortal.
Then we have Hector, often seen as Achilles' tragic counterpart. He seems to fight less for personal glory and more for his city, his family.
Exactly. Hector is the protector of Troy, and his heroism is deeply rooted in his sense of responsibility to his community and his profound love for his wife Andromache and his son Astyanax. His values often stand in contrast to the sometimes self-serving motivations of some of the Greek leaders.
Even his father, King Priam.
Yes, Priam embodies a certain humility that sets him apart too. Hector's inevitable death at Achilles' hands is one of the most heartbreaking moments in the Iliad.
And that final plea, his desperate request for his body to be returned, it's such a profoundly human moment, isn't it? Even in this epic war, the basic importance of respecting the dead, of proper burial, it just shines through.
It does. And even smaller moments, like his earlier interactions about Patroclus' body or Thetis lamenting her son, they underscore a shared humanity that goes beyond the battlefield lines. Hector truly embodies the Iliad's exploration of those intensely mortal themes. Honor, yes, but also fear, duty, and the immense human cost of both war and being a hero.
Okay, shifting focus now to the Odyssey, we meet Odysseus, the ultimate survivor. He's physically capable, sure, but it's his brain, his cunning, that really defines him.
Absolutely. While he's a seasoned warrior, Odysseus' defining trait is his metas, his cleverness, his strategic thinking, his amazing ability to adapt and basically talk his way out of impossible situations. The whole narrative of his long journey is a testament to this quality.
He uses disguises all the time.
Constantly. Testing loyalties, figuring things out. He outwits the Cyclops Polyphemus, he navigates Circe's magic, resists the siren's deadly song. It's his intellect, his mental agility that allows him to overcome these huge trials.
And unlike Achilles, who chooses that short, glorious life, Odysseus actively chooses to go home. He even turns down immortality from Calypso. That says a lot about his priorities.
It really does. His unwavering love for his home and his family is his main motivation. It powerfully underscores that central theme of the Odyssey. That true heroism isn't just about external achievements, but also includes nostos. The act of returning home and reclaiming your place is itself profoundly heroic.
And then there's Penelope. She's stuck at home in Ithaca, but she shows her own remarkable kind of heroism, doesn't she?
Absolutely. While her agency might seem more limited compared to the male heroes wandering around, Penelope embodies incredible resilience, unwavering loyalty, and a sharp intellect that mirrors Odysseus' own.
That weaving trick.
Her famous weaving ruse to put off the suitors perfectly shows her cunning. For 20 years, she keeps faith and holds the household together against enormous pressure.
And that final recognition scene, the clever test with the bed. It's not just her confirming it's him, it's also her asserting her own intelligence, making sure he is who he claims to be after all that time.
Exactly. Her identity is deeply tied to Odysseus, of course, but she is far from passive. She strategizes, she prays, she maintains her own agency within her situation's constraints. Her role powerfully highlights the Odyssey's central focus on the enduring importance of home and family as the ultimate goal of the hero's journey.
So these epics weren't just great stories for the ancient Greeks, were they? They were foundational texts. They shaped their whole culture, their values, their sense of who they were.
Precisely. The Iliad and Odyssey were much more than just entertainment. They were central to understanding Greek ideas about the gods, their moral codes, their social structures. The heroes themselves have this sort of semi-divine quality, and the gods are constantly involved in human lives, reflecting this connected ancient worldview.
And concepts like Taimu and Kleos.
They weren't just abstract ideas. They were deeply ingrained values that carried real weight in their aristocratic warrior culture, almost like commodities.
And then you have these powerful social customs, like Zimia, that sacred duty of guest friendship. How you treated a stranger was a huge measure of your character.
Absolutely. Zimia was considered a sacred obligation, with Zeus himself as its protector, Zeus Xenios. The stark contrast between the generous hospitality Odysseus gets from the Phaeacians and the total lack of it from the Cyclops, or those awful suitors, serves as a clear moral compass in the Odyssey.
It really highlights the good guys and the bad guys.
It does. It underscores the importance of those social bonds. And then there's Philotis, that deep loyalty to family and close friends, which is another cornerstone of the ethical framework in the epics.
On a deeper level, these epics grapple with some pretty profound philosophical questions, don't they? Like the inevitability of death, the search for meaning in our short lives.
They certainly do. The heroes are constantly aware of their own mortality, and their choices often reflect a search for something that will last beyond their brief time on Earth. Odysseus' explicit rejection of Calypso's offer of immortality is such a powerful statement about the value of mortal life, with all its limits, and the deep importance of human connection, family, home.
It's fascinating.
And while we see these as foundational myths today for the ancient Greeks, the line between myth and history was much blurrier. Even thinkers like Plato and Aristotle treated Homer as somewhat historical. His epics were a crucial part of their cultural and intellectual heritage.
So these weren't just tales, they were almost like sacred narratives recited at festivals, providing moral examples, shaping how they understood the world and their place in it.
Exactly. They laid out a worldview where ethical behavior was generally rewarded, and hubris, that arrogant pride that defies the gods or the social order, was eventually punished. They provided a shared story that helped define what it meant to be Greek, creating a sense of collective identity. Even centuries later, when Alexander the Great was around, cities would claim Homer as their own, showing his enduring cultural weight. The Iliad and Odyssey truly enshrine those core Greek ideals: valor in war, fidelity at home.
And their influence didn't stop there, did it? Their literary legacy is just immense. It continues to shape storytelling even now.
Profound is the word. They stand as foundational texts for the entire Western literary tradition. Think about the Romans. Virgil deliberately modeled his Aeneid directly on Homer.
Right, Aeneas is kind of like Odysseus and Achilles rolled into one.
In some ways, yes. And throughout the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, Homer was revered as the ultimate poet. His stories, even his specific ways of phrasing things, echo in works by giants like Dante.
And in more modern times, we still see their influence everywhere. James Joyce's Ulysses is a direct, incredibly complex retelling of the Odyssey set in Dublin.
A classic example.
Even the narrative techniques we see today, starting in medias res, using vivid, detailed descriptions, you can trace so much of that back to Homer's innovations.
Absolutely. The enduring archetype of the flawed hero, a character so central to so much literature, owes a huge debt to figures like the complex Achilles and the resourceful, sometimes tricky Odysseus. And their influence goes way beyond just books. They've shaped our very ideas of heroism and the basic structures of narrative and education and across the arts for centuries.
And they're still widely read, constantly being translated, reinterpreted. They're still studied intensely today. It's remarkable how these ancient poems keep resonating. We've even seen them adapted into popular films like Troy or the Coen brothers' O Brother, Where Art Thou?, which was a really clever take on the Odyssey in the American South.
Right. Great film. And ongoing scholarship continues to uncover new insights into the oral traditions, their connections to Bronze Age archaeology, the nuances of their original cultural context. Homer's enduring power, I think, lies in his incredible ability to tap into those fundamental, timeless human experiences: love, loss, war, longing for connection, the search for belonging, and to express them in such a powerful, poetic way that just transcends time and culture.
So to kind of wrap this part up, the Iliad and Odyssey stand as these incredible, complementary yet contrasting stories, woven from heroism, fate, human struggle, all within that rich oral poetry tradition.
Exactly. The Iliad throws us into intense conflict, relentlessly exploring the warrior ethos. The Odyssey guides us on a more personal, wandering journey, where cleverness and endurance are just as vital as strength.
And those unforgettable characters, Achilles, Hector, Odysseus, Penelope, they so powerfully embody those core Greek ideas about honor, identity, and that universal human experience of dealing with our own mortality.
They absolutely do. And these foundational works, full of both divine meddling and determined human action, they crystallized essential ancient values. The quest for lasting fame, Kleos, and that deep, almost primal pull towards home, Nostos.
And their staggering impact over millennia is just undeniable, isn't it? They've not only shaped Western literature, but have profoundly influenced how we understand ourselves and our place in the world. They really are a central pillar in the foundations of Western storytelling, offering both incredible stories and deep scholarly value.
Absolutely. And when you really dive into the heart of these epics, beyond the big battles and the mythical creatures, you find some truly timeless moral and practical lessons for life.
Okay, let's explore those. What enduring wisdom can we still pull from the Iliad today?
Well, the Iliad gives us a stark picture of how destructive unchecked pride and consuming anger can be that dangerous idea of hubris. Achilles' rage causes so much devastation.
It really drives the plot.
It does. It also makes us think about how honor and glory often come at a terrible cost, and that real heroism isn't always just about winning on the battlefield. It can include compassion, even vulnerability. The poem also underscores the idea that knowing we're mortal is what gives our lives meaning, and that courage and sacrifice in the face of that can be truly noble. And surprisingly, even amidst all the brutality of war, the Iliad shows the vital importance of empathy, of recognizing shared humanity, like in that incredibly moving scene between Priam and Achilles.
That scene is unforgettable. It really transcends the war narrative. Okay, and what about the Odyssey? What key insights does that epic offer us?
The Odyssey champions the enduring power of loyalty and just sheer perseverance against overwhelming adversity. Odysseus' decade-long trip home is a powerful testament to that.
He never gives up.
Never. It also strongly emphasizes the profound value of home and family, suggesting that nostos, that deep connection to place and loved ones, is often more meaningful, more fulfilling than even the brightest external fame. We also see the repeated triumph of wisdom, of strategy, and cunning over just brute strength. Odysseus often wins through his intellect, his adaptability, not just force.
Right, the brains over brawn idea.
Exactly. Furthermore, the poem stresses the fundamental importance of hospitality, of xenia, showing how treating guests reflects your moral character and how violating that sacred duty often leads to disaster for the violators, like the suitors.
They definitely get what's coming to them.
They do. Finally, the Odyssey highlights the constant human struggle with temptation and the crucial role of self-control in reaching our long-term goals. Odysseus faces so many distractions.
So when you consider them together, it's almost like a complete vision of what it means to be a hero, isn't it? It's not just about physical strength, but also inner strength, integrity, loyalty, humility, and that ongoing human search for meaning in a world where we know we won't live forever.
Exactly. They suggest that life will inevitably throw challenges at us, but it's through resilience, living with honor, cultivating moral wisdom, that we can navigate those challenges, find our purpose, and maybe achieve some measure of inner peace.
That's a powerful takeaway. So for you, our listener, maybe consider this. Which of these ancient epic visions of heroism resonates most deeply with you in your own life today? Is it the pursuit of lasting achievement in the face of mortality, like we see in the Iliad? Or is it the enduring strength found in loyalty, perseverance, and that deep connection to home celebrated in the Odyssey? And perhaps more importantly, why? Reflecting on that might offer some valuable insights into your own core values and the kind of meaningful life you are striving to build.